Welcome everyone to another episode of Mom, Multidimensional Art, Medicine, Women, and the Talking Stick. And today's medicine woman is Leah Sonaria, also known as the Flow Priestess. She is a transformational guide, a quantum healer, a ceremonial space holder, and an amazing threshold guardian and guide for women on their fertility journey and also on their journey of grief and loss of a baby, of pregnancy. She is a living embodiment of Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of fertility. She works with the Neteru, sharing her powerful HEKA codes through sound, light language, ritual, and movement. And she is also a published author of 3 books about her really interesting life, a planetary grid worker, a DJ, and a musical artist known as Sonaria, weaving healing and creation into many, many devotional art forms. She's basically a superwoman and a multifaceted, multidimensional goddess. And in my eyes, one of the original Earth leaders and key holders. And I'm beyond excited and honored to have her on the show today and the talking stick as well. So welcome, my dear sister, to
Thank you.
the show.
Thank you so much, Iris, for having me. I received your talking stick and just really so grateful to have met you through the ethers, through the internet. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's interesting to hear those words reflected back to me because my life wasn't always that way. And stepping into this role is such a destined path, as I'm sure you know. You don't really choose it, but also you have control as to how it unfolds and what you say yes to and what you lean into, which I think is this really beautiful path of sovereignty where we get to decide what is real, what isn't real, what kinds of rules we operate by, how we can learn from the ancients, and how we're also completely in a totally different time where everything is changing so quickly that those are just maps that we can follow, but we're rewriting everything right now too. So there's a lot in the field that we are tapping into, and I'm happy to be here to share what I have uncovered, and also hopefully support those who are listening to come into more of their truth of whatever it is that they are feeling into as well as magical humans.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you. So I have been following your journey for many years. I realized yesterday, like deleting old emails, that I have been following you for many, many years. I was like, wow, I didn't make the link that I don't know why suddenly you just came up in my field. And I have the feeling that right now we're stepping into an era where those who are meant to be coming together and working together and giving each other keys are meeting, and that every person that you meet and you come across in deeper contact now is someone important, the ones that leave and the ones that come into your life. And I have that feeling with you when I you came into my radar again and I started investigating what you're doing now. And I came across your new offering, which is quantum conception. I was just in awe because I talked to you about it. I have received a very, very similar urgency to bring about something very similar. Mine, the name that I got was Artful Fertility Awakening, and is more directed through what my medicine is. But when I started to go into what you're doing, and now have the honor to be able to go through your program, and it's just so powerful and so transformative. And I'm just in maybe four episodes in, and it's just incredible, like so needed for these times. And I want to ask you, so how did you come about doing what you are doing now? Because you went through so many different phases in your life. Maybe you can speak about how did you arrive now here where you are right now, and what was the biggest threshold that you had to cross in order to be this beautiful artist goddess that is just downloading this things from the ether that is so connected. Like, how did you get here?
Wow, yeah. Definitely a long journey, memoir worthy, and that's why I began my writing journey as it was unfolding, because there was so much to my life that wasn't what I was taught. There was no roadmap for what I was experiencing. And yet I was still finding my guides and my teachers and going into containers that were offered by priestesses to get a deeper sense of what I was, the internal and external revolution I was experiencing, stepping into my divine feminine essence and power and awakening my body wisdom and my womb wisdom, and coming into these spaces where I was really doing a lot of purification work to clear out stuff, and just feeling those moments of somatic release in different medicine spaces, whether it was plant medicine or breath work or dance. A lot of this was starting to stir up a lot, and it was kind of like an internal earthquake that happened when I was going through my first round of my dark night of the soul, which was in 2019, where a lot of my life was falling apart and things that I thought were certain were not, like my relationship and my business, which at the time was it was good to have an outlet for my expression, because I was doing clothing and putting different prints on yoga pants and things like that. But at the same time, I kind of got swept up in this whole capitalist go, go, go industry that was very hard to keep up with and burnt me out at the end, which ironically, the name of my company was called Inner Fire. And so that was kind of like a first step into this, but I was still very spiritually adjacent at that time. I didn't have those true lived embodied experiences until I began that medicine journey of purification. And so I wouldn't say there's one threshold, although there were some significant ones, one being my abortion in 2020, which was quite a powerful rite of passage. And something that I want to remind people who are on that journey or who have experienced it is that it is a rebirthing experience when you experience death and birth at the same time. And that to me really initiated me onto the priestess path. And I began to find more teachers that were tuned into different lineages. The first one I studied with was Leah Sonaria, based out of Australia, the Tantric Rose Mystery School. And she provided a priestess training that had us meet all of these key archetypes like Isis and Hathor and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, and also Kali and Aphrodite and Guan Yin, and all of these beautiful archetypes that we can relate to. Certain lineages have preserved them in ways that really keep their ministry alive. And so through all of that process, I realized that I was really here to guide people through transitions, because I was able to guide myself through it, and not alone either. It was very much supported. And also there was still resistance to really stepping fully into the work. It took me years to really own that aspect and liberate my voice and be able to share my truth as Flow Priestess online, and to separate myself out from the former version of me, which was still very much, my actions were governed by the ways in which I was still seeking love outside of me, validation and approval and all of these things that actually did drive me to work hard and quote unquote succeed. But once that got lifted and I was no longer in the matrix operating system, I had to figure out how to also navigate back through these corridors and find these spaces where I could feel safe again to express. And that led me into the temples of Egypt in 2022, my first pilgrimage that I attended, which was an incredible spiritual pilgrimage. Very intense though, because it was a lot of people, 50 people.
Wow.
And then a year later, the lands called me back, and I was there co-leading a smaller tour with 11 people. And I spent a total of 5 months in Egypt, and it really initiated me deeply into these mysteries. And the reason I went initially was because I was already beginning to channel their language as a result of me doing a lot of medicine vocal work and medicine singing programs and song circles, and really just starting to tune into what this all was. And also receiving a lot of attunements from different channelers and light language speakers that also were incredible to feel the visceral response of how my body would react to someone's sound. All of that was kind of this big soup, and it was a full-time job. And luckily, I was able to do that through the grace of the goddess who afforded me and gave me the little intuitional ping, afforded me the time to um to do this, because I sold my company right before the pandemic. So it was just this divine timing alignment thing where I had the money and the capacity to go back to school, basically start apprenticing in these temple arts, and then move through all of these layers of purification in a good way. So it did have other dynamics and layers and setbacks along the way, but essentially it did lead me back into the Holy of the Holies, where I could really begin to set my pillar into the earth and continue to serve Gaia's mission to support, the purification and the health of all of her children here. And so there's always these deeper, bigger macro layers that we'll, are part of. And if you're here listening, I'm sure that you are holding down the pillar wherever you are. And you also mentioned gate guardianship. So this is, part of the earth work and the ley line work that we're all tasked with, which is sometimes very unforgiving work or unrewarded work. Like nobody really knows what we're doing in the background. Definitely doesn't pay the bills, at
No.
least until you start developing programs that help people. But it is something that is an initiation in and of itself to really stay true to the mission and to know like this is what you're here for. So kudos to you for just being here and doing the mission. I feel you, sister, and all the other ones that are listening. We're
Oh,
here doing it together.
thank you so much. Well, that sounds like as if the pain of losing your baby and maybe also the exhaustion of this, let's call it 3D job, or the one that you thought would, like the success that would make you happy, was what brought you into searching for something deeper. And I feel that many of us are going through this process now of this change, of this different thresholds, like going from a job, from 9 to 5 job, into a bigger calling, that we're being called now, a lot of us, to really step into our mission and our purpose. And many of us are initiated through pain, through loss, through grief, through a separation from narcissist. Or there's like this intense moments in life where that bring you to or force you kind of to step into your next level of evolution. And today in the Flow temple, which is an offering that she does for free once a month, where we can just come together and flow together. I loved what your friend said, the astrologer, that we're moving now into a completely new way of relating with each other, and that we're starting to connect more in community and start to see the other as ourselves and just go into this beautiful collaboration. And I feel that this is really deeply happening right now, and that every one of us has like this specific codes and keys that are so important for the big wave of awakening that is about to happen in life. Like there, I don't know how many planets are aligning, and the solar whatever. I'm not an astrologer. I always get like the same information, but without really knowing what is going on in the planets. I just everything know everything intuitively. So, what would you say going through all of the journey that you have experienced, and you have not gone through it to get alone, you said. So going through this journey alone, which was most of my path, which was very, very difficult. I didn't have the luck to have a community that supported me, that I could share all those crazy experiences that I started to have when you are awakening. For example, I shared a little bit about you, and today I found another sister that shared publicly a story about her, like this energetic birth. And when I read this story, I was like, oh, wow. So now women are starting to really talk about what they have been experiencing. And I also had 8 energetic births. And when you don't understand in the beginning what is happening, it is really scary when you're not held by a community or by spaces like the ones you are offering, which are such incredibly safe spaces where you just feel that you can speak without being judged, without somebody wanting to change you. And I feel that this is so important right now. And yeah, so there's a lot of things going on now energetically. And you went now also, after all of your path, into expressing your art, writing, doing music. Do you feel that, like, fertility, creativity, grief, and all of those expressions are the same life force, and that what happens if we stop, instead of wanting to fix all of those states and those problems that we think we need to fix somehow and get somewhere where we don't have that anymore, instead of fixing that, listen to what they are trying to tell us or what they are initiating us to. And I feel that that is a big part of your work, to help people really see clearly what this is bringing them into, like this ego view, right? Or am I mistaken?
Oh no, you are spot on. There's a lot that you touched on there, and that was coming through me as I was receiving your transmission of all of these aspects that we're navigating together, which have been so hidden from our collective consciousness, that we like, especially the divine feminine mindset of the non-linear, the abstract, the ways in which we can find truth that don't make any logical sense. Like, how do we have immaculate conception? How do we birth ourselves over and over again? How do we go through many death portals over and over again? And I'm sorry to hear you didn't have as much support through that process as you would have liked. But that's also where these these ascended guides, these etheric guides, these goddesses, these masters that live in a higher dimension, but also have experience here in this plane, can really be a powerful ally for us to find our way through this multidimensional, multimodal experience.
Yeah.
And for me, Isis is that. She's a resurrectionist. She's a rebirther. Hathor, her sister, is a midwife. She's also there to support the creation flow, but also moving it all the way back to the inception conception point of sacred sexuality and expression, because sexual energy and creative energy is the same energy. It's all coming through the sacrum. And that's usually where we get blocked, is in those lower chakras, due to fear, due to shame, due to all of these imprints that have been passed down over millennia through our own bloodlines and also through karmic lines and soul lineages. And so there's a lot that we're unpacking in terms of our place within the continuum of the great flow of life within the universe. And as someone who's been really interested in flow for a good solid 6 years now, it's been my full-time study, because it never really ends to understand the maps of creation, how we are all in this sequence of movements, and how we all slot ourselves into the greater scheme of things through these incredible laws that somehow make everything land in its own place as everything's constantly changing. That to me is, it's a big job. That's what Ma'at governs in the Egyptian pantheon. It's her job to make sure everything's in right order, and and yeah, how it's all moving is also governed by the laws of Tahuti, and Ma'at is really the one to put those into action while he's there to keep programs intact, um, so that yeah, the universe can operate in such a beautiful way that we are in the conscious tending to what is emerging in our field of awareness and what we are creating as our reality. And so it can get very wide in terms of the spectrum that we're starting to hold in our mind's eye of like the capacity that we are able to hold individually, but also collectively, because this is part of that weaving of, okay, so now we are all awakening to more unity consciousness. Therefore, we're able to meet at the level of mind and heart and womb, wherever, like the whole being can also begin to um, recognize the other and see the other through new eyes. And that's also what Horus and Ra support us with, is they give us these eyes. You see these Egyptian eyes. These Egyptian eyes are there to support us in seeing from that higher vantage point, the eagle eye view that you're mentioning, to then see where the connections are happening, where the synapses are wanting to jump into connection, and our neural pathways are reflected in our communal webs that we're also weaving, and receiving support from the mushroom guides. And, there's a lot that's happening in the mycelial webs that we are remembering, and it's the circuitry is coming back online. But it requires us to start with ourselves, to start with the ways in which we maybe have been atrophying because we're not actually working those pathways. Like they're getting overgrown, or they maybe were never connected in the first place. And so for me, the greatest starting point is through the body. It actually started with me with flow arts and learning how to do poi. And I remember just being so frustrated that I couldn't coordinate my limbs. And then something would just click in, and I would get the move, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, now that pathway is there. And I went on to later study with an incredible teacher named Dr. Genju Dasala, who has this whole modality called neurosomatic flow. And we learned how to rewire our belief systems by rewiring our nervous systems while we're learning these new moves and unlocking new capacities of connection within our own bodies. And so that to me also felt really grounding in the bigger scheme of all of these spiritual concepts that are all trying to grok. Because when we're looking at like, oh, my body is becoming more connected within itself, that therefore also you start to see the reflection in the external reality also proving the same thing. I'm meeting new people, new communities are happening. And through these connections, also we have to go through a grieving process too, because there's a letting go of the old. And that's another big part of the work, is to honor what's being let down and let go of in service to what's coming in. And that rebirthing process is Isis's map that she's constantly showing us. It's okay to let go, but sometimes you do need to do the lamentation ritual. Sometimes you really do need to cry so much that you're flooding the entire Nile in service to fertility, in service to having that overflow move across the lands and support others in kind. So it's a lot that that wants to be brought through, but it's starting with the body to me is just the best method to get really connected to this kind of spiritual it's like an operating system that we are integrating into our being, or that we're upgrading to. And sometimes it's got new features that we still don't know how to work. But that's part of the play and the exploration of how this all happens, is that when you tell me something that I've never heard before, I can just suspend my disbelief and go, wow, okay, we're playing in a new realm. So that feature is now available. It's like when people are discovering AI, and it's like AI can do this now. And we're like, okay, well, I accept that it can. So spiritually, we're also evolving in tandem with what's happening in the mainstream tech world, that this is like totally possible. And then by meeting each other, we affirm the truth, and then create, a case file for all of this new stuff that's coming through. So pass the stick back to you.
Oh, sister, I love that so, so much. And we're on the same frequency, baby, because the body and dancing and being in the flow has been the tool to unite worlds through our bodies as the threshold, which is what a priestess really is. A priestess is the bridge between worlds, between one way of being and the other, between the world of the seen and the unseen. And as a flow priestess, or as the priestess of Hathor or of Isis, or for me, you're like an
Mhm.
embodiment. You're not a priestess. You're her. She works through you.
Yeah.
But the dancing priestesses of Hathor, we came together in the temples to dance and to activate geometries that literally opened up portals, that opened up new timelines. And this knowledge is coming back right now. And it came to me like 3 weeks ago. I was just, scrolling through Instagram, and like all of this information and teachings and do this and do that. And it came to like like a system override where I was like, I'm so done with like this mental information of things. And and this desire arose in me. I just want to dance. Like I really literally just want to dance with my tribe, with my sisters, and drum and sing. And from that desire, I said, I'm just going to do a workshop about dancing. So I started dancing, and then this whole remembrance came when I was dancing with, when we are, because time is not like past or future, it's coming in now because we're connecting now with this information, dancing with my sisters in the temple, and just weaving this new net, and birthing through us this new paradigm. And this is how Sacred Dancer, the workshop that I'm doing on Monday, came about. And it's really like I'm being led by the goddess. Every offering that comes through me is bigger than me. It's not that I am doing this from my ego. It's literally bigger than me, and I feel that this is a big part that is important for the listeners, is to really go into, first of all, what is your highest excitement right now? Like, what do you feel excited about? Like, for me, it was at that moment, I just want to dance and I don't want to do anything else. I just want to dance. And with this excitement, it's when this big huge download came. And I know that this will be an initiation, not just a dance workshop. It's literally an initiation for the women who come into the space to start to remember those aspects and this sacred technology that our body is, and go into the rhythm of life, into the flow, and be the key for themselves first and then for others. um, so I really love that you're mentioning this. And how do you feel that art, in your case music, is also a key to unlock, for example, also the womb? Because I know that in your quantum conception course, you also speak about the connection with the throat and the womb.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to share your knowledge about that as well, as you are an amazing singer and also now a DJ. In one day, you learned how to DJ.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Yeah. I remember you mentioned that in the last question, and then it went a different direction with my answer. And so thank you for centering it back on this piece around art, because even though I've been creative my whole life, that aspect of me has been quite repressed because of my mother. And I have a deep mother wound that I've been healing actively over the last several years, because she's a refugee and lives in a lot of fear and has always kind of poo-pooed my artistic pursuits because it always seemed useless in her eyes. Like if I wasn't making money or getting a regular job and doing all the things that felt safe in her eyes, she would project her fears upon me. And so I always played it safe until I had that awakening moment. And then writing really became my outlet. And it was very powerful for me to start to reframe the creation process not as a means to an end, but as the actual the power of the journey itself, and how many iterations sometimes are required in order to find your voice or find your style. And that doesn't have to be something that's set in stone, but it's actually a meditation that is part of the practice of self-refinement and coming to know who you are in reflection to the medium or whatever it is that wants to emerge through you. And it's such a powerful process to be able to tune into the womb space as the container for that creation to occur. So it's all the womb work that I've been doing, and it's not a one and done thing. I'm realizing it's like it's a daily thing to connect back to the womb. Even if you've done a million womb healing courses and you've dumped your sacrum a million times, it still feels like there's always attending. It's temple keeping. It's like you got this, the floors are going to need to be swept every day. And so coming back to the temple and running energy from the earth up into the womb space every day and into my ovaries, which is my fire. And I only have one actually because of a surgery I had due to the birth control pill. That's a whole other thing. Sometimes the medical system really messes with our hormones and our natural cycles. And it's just unfortunate how much we've given up our power to be able to connect to these cyclical ways, which are more earth-based and also help us tap into Earth's creative power too. So I spend a lot of time cultivating that energy up into my womb to clear out some of that stagnation. And in doing so, then I can start to tap in more into the creative channel and the resource that I get to access as someone who is an embodiment of these energies. You know, there's something that is really weird about how the radio station I've tapped into is Neteru radio. It's like I'm channeling their codes. It's all sounds and words that have been documented by archaeologists, and yet I am able to channel them in a specific way. And it's a whole system. It's the HEKA codex, as it's called. It's a 64 code system, and it's a passable technology too that I'm starting to channel in. It's funny, my computer right now is sitting on the Gene Keys book, and it's like there's something there that is, you know, there are these tie-ins of how certain systems unlock new systems that are emerging. So that, and but creation also, I want to mention, isn't just art. You know, creation is problem solving. Creation is finding new perspectives and new ways to actually see the world. And so you don't always have to have the artistic outlet to be able to be a creator. And sometimes the creation is really in the environment or the space or the temple that you are crafting and welcoming other energies into. And that's what led me on the DJ journey, was to realize that as I'm experiencing this ecstatic catharsis through dance and movement, which is also one of my, it's like my medicine, really, above all the other ones I've experienced. And I've gone on many psychedelic journeys. The medicine of movement, especially in community, is so core to who we are. It's so core to our culture and our tribal ways. And so in these spaces, I also realized there was a lack of awareness in a lot of the spaces I'd been in around the alchemy of the container itself and how to steward people through real transformation through a journey that has shape to it, that arcs, that rises, that falls, that has a nice denouement and a nice way to integrate the releases that happen in those spaces. And I realize also female DJs, especially ones that are on the priestess path, are really needed right now because that's our specialty, is to be able to move through that. And I found a beautiful program over the summer last year called Sonic Ceremony that was held by these beautiful women in the States that had been doing that work for a while already. I find they're a little bit ahead in the scenes, you know, these ecstatic dance scenes and things like that. And they were talking about you know, how to run energy through the altar. And I had never thought of that. They're like, yeah, the reason we have crystal balls, the reason we have the stones at the front, the reason we set up altars in front of our DJ setup is not by mistake. It's so that the energy that wants to be purified runs through that as the central pillar instead of us. So we can stay, you know, we're just there to tend. And that's the beautiful thing about some of these ancient technologies, that we can find a modern context for how this all operates. And I found when I started DJing that way, it was so much better for my nervous system that I wasn't taking on all the stuff that people were clearing these spaces. Because entities emerge, demons fly around. I've seen them. Like it's weird stuff can happen sometimes in these spaces because we're also generating a lot of energy and a lot of light. And so it's attracting a lot within the field. But also if the space holder doesn't understand the protocols of containment and setting up a safe space, sometimes wacky weird stuff can happen. So I think it's, you know, it's part awareness and training and having some of these core foundational pieces in place before we move into uh bigger roles, and also learning as we go, because yeah, there's never going to be a perfect situation, especially in shamanic spaces or medicine spaces. Like the learning is in the moment where you're like, oh no, I'm overstepping, or I'm, you know, I'm reliving some past trauma that wants to come out to be cleared, so I have to just be humbled in this moment. You know. And so the more that happens, the more I'm realizing, oh, this is just how it goes. And that the artistic process, just tying it all back to that, is that it's like there is no perfection, there is no, you know, end result that is going to all of a sudden click in to be like the magnum opus of your life. It could be that, but it often doesn't happen from the intention to create a masterpiece. But it is more coming from this place of how can I be so present with what is, that everything that emerges through me reflects a deeper core truth that is also, it's a personal truth and it's a universal truth, so it can be met by others. And it's taken me years to get there. I'm still on that journey, still writing music and actively on a journey of recording myself. But getting out of your own way can it goes a long way. I'll pass the stick back to you.
Wow, aho, aho. Well, that was so much juiciness. I'm just gonna let it sink in for a minute. Oh my God. It's just so astonishing to me how we are being called the priestesses to the same things, because I have also been called like maybe 3 months ago to start DJing. I have bought my deck. I started a little bit, and then I went again into other things. But I have received maybe 2 years ago this download of, or I had these visions of these spaces where the medicine women, and this is why mom, multidimensional art medicine women, art in terms of what you just said, art as life itself, like the canvas of life itself, creating spaces that, and ceremonial spaces that are transformative, but not in terms as if we have known it so far, but using these ancient technologies that we remember, like sound, movement, crystals, plants. Helps with from the plant spirits, not necessarily even psychedelic plants, but plants that have been hidden up until now and are coming back now, like mugwort or rosemary, blue lotus, which is
Mhm.
very incredible plant to try, and that we're being called to create those spaces in with the knowledge of creating it in a safe way. And all of these festivals that are happening now were mostly led by men DJs, um, are doing a lot of damage. I have seen like horrible things in festivals, really horrible things, and not opening and closing the space in a proper way, so that those negative entities, as interdimensional beings and negative frequencies that are being released, can go back to where they belong and be transmuted in a safe space. And this is why a lot of those indigenous people are also being invited to the festivals, because they know they still know how to do it, and they open up the space with the concha, and they open up a sacred fire and tend to the fire along the whole festival, because these are the elements that help transmute those energies. And all of this knowledge is coming back now, and I'm also being called to go even deeper into space holding, into quantum space holding in a safe way. I'm doing that right now. it just came to me for free as well. Like everything that I need to be doing now is just coming to me for free. I'm in a moment where I cannot really invest anymore. I have invested so much in learning, like you, so many different things. Like we have just driven into so many different modalities and things so that we can know and share with others this broad spectrum of knowledge, right? And so I feel that this is really, really important now, and this is coming back. So my idea as well with this podcast is to inspire others to start pursuing their passions, and if they have a calling and a nudge to start to do music, for example, or to start to DJ, or all of these things, we don't, and I include myself, we don't give it the importance sometimes that it has. But maybe if you follow this excitement, this is exactly the key that would lead you to the success or fulfillment that you are seeking, maybe now by wanting to earn money. But what you really want is to feel this peace and this freedom and this contentment inside, by that's the real feeling that you want to have. But you're pursuing maybe a career that is not aligned with what you want, and you're maybe trying to copy someone else. So that's what I see a lot in those missions, or people wanting to find their mission and then connecting with maybe coaches that give them their way of doing things, instead of opening up a space where they can discover what it truly is, what they are here to bring. So giving the power back to the people is, I feel, what we are entering into now. And simply holding a mirror of their own greatness is the era of Aquarius, of the water bearer, allowing them to flow to the river, back to the ocean, but through the river that is meant for them and not through our own river. So that's what I feel is happening right now. And you posted your set, your first set, and like wrote that you learned how to do that in 2 days. And actually, you inspired me to pursue and to buy my DJ pult, which I'm currently now painting. I'm doing the portal painting with my DJ pult to be able to channel like those frequencies. So I feel that you inspire so many people that you don't even know about, by you allowing yourself to share yourself authentically all of the time and go from one thing to the other, and being this multifaceted incredible being. And just want to thank you for that, because I realized that you have been inspiring me for a long time, and I was like, wow, that's it. That's sometimes we don't know how much of an impact we have on people's lives. And now with the work that you're doing with the fertility, which is so needed in the times that we are going into specifically, I just want to thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Iris. Honestly, I feel like I'm just getting started because of all of the deeper visibility woundings that I have been having to work through. And these are real woundings around persecution, around being exiled, around being misunderstood and killed for practicing your magic. So, just presencing that to be a really real imprint that we're all consciously working through, and to have sacred mirrors like you and others in your corner that can validate the truth of what you really are, which is a multidimensional creatrix that knows how to wield these universal powers of creation, because we are it, we were made of it, and therefore we have it within us. We have the spark of life, and that's enough. And one thing I've noticed over the last little while of really exploring these traditions is that no two people practice with these traditions the same way. Like, I've met many priestesses of Isis. They all have their own unique way of bringing through her medicine and her magic, because it's such a creative lineage. It's infinitely creative. And so we'll all have our own unique way of approaching ritual. I mean, there are some foundations. You got to have some structure and some masculine energy to keep a through line and to contain things in a certain way. But rituals are pretty simple: beginning, middle, end. There's a thing. It's a story. It's a thing that returns us back home. But that home can also be in a different location. We can rise up in a spiral. We can also find our way back to ourselves and not be the same people anymore. And when we're doing this actively as a way of rebirthing ourselves and evolving the collective consciousness towards a more loving, harmonized, peaceful society, we can start to also notice where our uniqueness becomes our greatest asset. And that to me is the thing that is starting to really rise to the surface right now as we're being flooded with all of this AI content, and everything is like, people can just do it very quickly. But what's missing in all of that is the authentic curation of your preferences, your taste. And right now, as an artist, I'm realizing it's actually people care more about your taste than your talent, because your taste is your unique, it's where your excitement has expanded your field into. So it's like not everyone's into the same stuff, but if you're really into what you're into and you are putting that out there and you're like, this is my jam, others will come and be like, yes, this is also my jam. Thank you for curating this vibe for me. And curation is, I would say, an underlooked part of creation. And everything is curation. You're curating all of the colors on the palette. You're curating the sounds. You're curating all of this. And sometimes less is more, in this sense that creating a style and knowing that it's not your full identity. You don't have to subscribe 100% to this. You can change and adapt and try on new clothing as it is. But also choosing to embody something that allows you to feel more you. And that's, I think, what's really fun about the artist development process is that who I am as Sonaria, like she is me, but she's not me at the same time. Like she's an ascended version of me that has a certain energy and attitude that maybe me as Leah doesn't quite have yet. Or maybe I'm still kind of governed by my lower mind in certain ways, or just my humanness, we'll call it. But the version of me that wants to inspire, which I'm so grateful that you can see this reflection in me here, but she's still developing, and she's a little feistier. She's got things to say. She's got attitude. She's kind of irreverent. She doesn't really give that many F's anymore. It's like the fuck it, I'm 40 energy, And she's just like, okay, this is, here we are. Like, I am who I am. I'm not going to apologize for this. And I think a lot of women have spent so much of their lives catering to other people's ideas of who they're supposed to be, and tending, which is beautiful because it's our default to be able to take care of others and to make sure everyone's okay. But when it comes to our own emancipation journey and the liberation that comes from being like, I'm going to do a photo shoot with pasties on my breasts and I'm going to put it out there and I don't care if my mother sees it, that kind of energy is what I had to step into in order to really start to discover who this version of me really is. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so, so much. I also believe that this is the future, like being your most authentic self and allowing yourself to express that. This is what people are going to cherish much more now with the rise of AI, and that all of those unembodied, false, copy, paste things are starting to crumble more and more. The more the frequency rises, this authentic being will be seen more and more and valued more and more. So I believe that the path to authenticity is the path to enlightenment. And I have also the same with Iris, or Barbara Iris, and then KYARON, my artist name. And I believe that this rising of the dragon, of you seeing yourself as whole, and also embracing your shadow side or your kinky side, your fierce side, your bold side, the one that is able to say no, is very much needed at this time, and will be needed much more in the times that we're stepping into now. And when you have your sisters by your side that have your back in that sense, it makes it just so much easier. And this is why community building is so important right now. And I want to go into a topic that I'm really curious about, and I believe that our listeners are also very curious about what you have to say about that, because I know that you just recently found your sacred partner, and I'm curious to know, how did your life change, maybe your gifts or your path? Do you feel you got a little bit distracted, or do you feel you have now more capacity to go even deeper into it because you have like your like somebody holding you through it, and that allows you to expand even further? Like, how are you experiencing it, and do you feel that in this year more of those sacred unions are going to take place?
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Sacred Union. It's been such a powerful journey that has driven me into many spaces of deep prayer and ritual work because, yeah, I decided to use magic to call in my beloved. And I knew that I was meant to come into connection with someone who was also magic, and who, operated differently than the average person who is still in the system. And there's different degrees to awareness and how we present as spiritual humans. But yeah, there's so much with this. It was actually the fertility journey that led me to this, because I knew that as someone who wants to become a mother, I would be pushed into more spaces where I would have to serve. And Hathor was my guide for all of this. Hathor was like, I got you. I know divine union is imminent. If you're on this path and you have stepped into this mystery, it is a tantric lineage. And if you are meant for that, you're gonna receive it. And it is something that, sometimes we doubt sometimes, but like it starts with our own inner tantra, our own acquaintance with our masculine and our feminine energies, and how those two play and merge within us. And we all have seasons where we're in more of a feminine flow, and more, other seasons where we're building and we're creating structure. And so this to me was also very clearly demonstrated in my call to create a fertility program, and to start with, sex being one of the things that's commonly overlooked in the fertility journey, of like, oh yeah, the point of conception matters. And to also be already kundalini activated through a lot of the practices that I was guided through my teachers, and to see self-pleasure as a spiritual purification practice that helps to merge with God and have that experience of creation at the moment of orgasm, and to be able to share that with the beloved was really so deeply in my desires. And then, yes, he did pop in. And funny enough, it wasn't just him. It was like maybe my prayers was just like doing all the extra work. It's like when people, do all this fertility treatments and then they get twins, it's like I magnetized several beloveds actually at the same time. And it was interesting because I was starting to also discern and tune into where each one was serving me as the high priestess. They were all Horuses that had come into my temple space to serve the goddess. And it doesn't have to be always in that direction, but I think traditionally there was something around the masculine coming in to receive the oracular transmission from the high priestess or the oracle as medicine. And the men that had come into my life were all medicine men. They'd all been on the path, and as such became medicine for me. And I'm sure I would have maybe predicted this, but I didn't at the time. But I didn't realize how much medicine it would actually feel like to come into divine union. There was a lot of triggers that came up, because also the way we wanted to come into union was in sovereignty. And sovereign lovership is a whole new concept that is a little challenging for the average mainstream monogamist to understand, of how there really is no guarantee and there is no expectation in the connection. And the more present we are to each other's energies, the more the connection deepens. But it happens in a space where we're not obligated to each other, and that love can weave in multiple forms. And at first I was like, this is very weird that I'm kind of in love with two men. We have different, I think there's different roles that they serve, but still there is intimacy shared. And how that all unfolded was very interesting, and still unfolding very unexpectedly, and how it's triggering certain attachment woundings too. Like a lot of people really start to understand their own attachment styles and how they were raised, or like inner child work starts coming back into the field because of what we were conditioned to need in our lives to feel safe. And I've had to let go a lot of that through this process, and remember, like, oh, I've got my own mission here. I've got things I'm here to do. I'm receiving support from my divine masculine. And also there's times where I have to hold myself and he has to hold himself. And maybe our tracks aren't fully aligned either. Maybe there's times where we have to be in different places and just let the other be free. And that to me feels exciting, and also like there's a whole new societal template that's coming through around union within community, how we're not meant to be everything for everyone. And this is just my experience, but it feels a lot more nourishing to have many people uh to support me in different ways, because it is a tribal thing. It's not about the one and be all one all be what's the word the one all be all that is supposed to fill that gap, because there's really no gap to fill. Like once you are sovereign within yourself, you're also whole within yourself. And often that is when that person lands in your life, because mine, I met him a year before we actually got together, and we had to just release each other because the timing wasn't right, and not even really think about it until things realigned magically through the internet. And then we were back in the same vicinity in a totally different place too. So there is divine timing at play always. And so if you're also on a divine union journey and you're like, where is he? Where is she? Just trust that the more you really lean into your own inner unification and don't think about it too much, stay in your own truth around what you're really here to do, often that's when they start coming in. But it is a journey sometimes, because I'm also realizing that even though I am in divine union now, nothing is set in stone. And that can feel really destabilizing for somebody who is used to locking someone in and being like, all right, you're mine for life now. And now we get to have a family and now we get to do these things. But what I'm realizing is that it's in that instability that actually creates the conditions for us to fully live. And it's something that Osho talks about, which I just recently read his book called Intimacy. And he was just like, we have forgotten that our core religion is insecurity in a good way. Like he's saying impermanence. He's saying, like, we have forgotten that the impermanence is the thing that keeps things juicy and erotic and alive in our lives, versus this security that we're all seeking. Even secure attachment is a term, but it's like, are we really seeking the security? Is that necessary? Or can the safety that the earth provides us is enough for us to feel sovereign within ourselves? Therefore, we become more magnetic, attractive, the ones that are like, oh, she's got it. Like we're going to go towards her and worship her. That reality just emerges naturally. So that's my response about divine union.
Ooh. Can I? OMG, wow. That was so deep. Like, there's just so much. I mean, I could talk to you the whole night. Wow, there's so much to unravel here, and it just clicked for me in so many ways. And I have now, I understand like things that have been happening in my life. And I believe as well that the concept of this union of divine union is changing, and in general of love and what love is and how love can be expressed between men and women, and that there are different partners that you have in your life that have different roles to play, but that the love that is behind is always the same, and it's this unconditional and true, true unconditional free love, which is what we are currently all going to experience and experiencing more and more, which is also closely linked to the free energy, right? When you are in this fullness in yourself, in this free giving, um, electron giver, water state, which is also what the Neturu represent in Hathor, right? This flow of life, of giving love, of unconditional love. You don't really need anyone, but everything just comes when you need it. And it can be in forms of a lover. It can be in forms of, for example, my case, a really, really good masculine friend that has been helping me so that I can travel, so that I can do the grid work with my daughter, so that I can, do different things. But we're not lovers, but we love each other very, very deeply. And it is like a sacred union, just without the, sex and all of that. So the way of seeing love, I feel, is really changing, and the relationships and between us, also between women, yeah, um, to enter really this deep sisterhood love. And I have some of my sisters that I look at and I'm like, I'm in love with that woman. Like am I going crazy? I'm in love with that woman. I would not make love to her, but I love her. I truly feel that I just could, like, I would give my life for her. I think she's amazing. And I'm experiencing this bursts of love sometimes when, and I feel that with people like you who are on that frequency already. And it just mirrors me back this, what I am already. So it's just so beautiful. And you said also something about this impermanence, right? Or this imperfection, and not need to have this perfection in life. And this is also this last phase of awakening, I feel, that we are experiencing right now, where we understand that there is no such thing as perfection, or a state where you don't have any problems anymore, where you're like enlightened and happy and blissful all of the time. That it is through this impermanence and imperfection and the problems that where you actually grow, and that we are in a constant grow phase, and also being teachers and also students, constantly evolving. And that when you allow yourself to let go of the need of perfectionism and allow yourself to be perfectly imperfect, it's just such a relief. And this is when you can connect with your inner child, and where you can allow yourself to have fun again, and connect with art, with making music, and with focusing on the pleasure in life, and feeling joy even in those difficult moments, because you know that those difficult moments are just a threshold, bringing you into an even bigger and more expansive version of yourself, and where you can meet yourself anew in every moment. So thank you so
Aho.
much for inspiring all of that juiciness. And my last request for you, maybe to wrap it up, if you feel like it, do you feel like bringing through some beautiful HEKA codes for the listeners? Maybe a little bit activation, or anything that you feel like, in whatever direction the goddesses are bringing you
Yeah.
to?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone's already on their highest timeline. I just want to remind you all that this is the highest timeline because you decided it is.
Yay!
Because yeah, we live in a universe with infinite timeline and infinite timelines, infinite possibilities, and yet there is a beautiful linear thread that is weaving us into this is what I love about the third dimension, is that 3D has a linearity to it, and as it's unfolding, it's just the storyline that that we get to choose, and it is a function of our perspective and how we get to play in this realm. Play is such an important aspect to this, because once we come into this divine play, this Leela, we suspend our disbelief around what's real, what can happen, what can't happen. It really changes the rules of the game. And so we can trust that even just by being here during this conversation, we are not the same people anymore. We have changed. There has been a vibrational upgrade that occurred. And we can rest easy in knowing that every day, and it's something that you have to get used to a little bit. It's like every day you wake up a new person. Sometimes people around you are going to get triggered by that because they want consistency, because that feels safe. But if you're on this accelerated ascension journey, trust that people will also start to come up with you and be able to meet your pace and be able to move at the speed of light with you as you're shifting cellularly in a deep way. And yeah, it can feel a little crazy at first. You're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just getting blasted. And at other times we can really sit in the stillness of what this all has to offer, which is just deep resolve in knowing that you are it, you are the universe unto yourself, and that everything that you experience is being witnessed by a beautiful, benevolent, loving God, and it is co-created. And so that just wanted to be shared and said, because it's sometimes we get a little bit um you know the journey can feel kind of like we're just collecting a bunch of random stuff and I don't know what I'm going to do with all of this. But it's like, just trust that what you already have right now is enough to get going. If there's already stagnation in the space, just be like, all right, just going to pause on all the other things and then really come into like, what is the transmission I'm here to offer today, and trust that that's enough. And like you said, with the perfect imperfection, I remember when I had a clothing company, I had a shirt that said imperfect, but with an apostrophe beside the I'm. So it was like, I am perfect, but imperfect as at the same time. So it's really how we are. And this way we can also take the right aligned action, which is part of Hathor's work. She's just like, I'm throwing the party, I'm making the plans, we're getting together to do this ritual, we're setting the timelines and booking it in. And sometimes that is also what needs to happen, because we can float around in so many ideas or get stuck in this sort of loop of constantly needing upgrades or activations. And this is an activation you're receiving prior to the HEKA codes to just remind you that it's go time. Like, let's go. Wind horse is coming, or not wind horse, fire horse is coming up. And we are in an Aquarian season right now. So there's a lot of collective momentum moving through us all at the same time, so that you can trust that you don't have to do it all yourself, that you just saying yes to the experience is enough to get you there. And there is really no attainment anyways. It's just sometimes we feel like these projects, to bring them all the way through, to birth them earthside, takes so much. But this is also part of the medicine of Hathor and Isis, is that it's a shamanic psychedelic experience to birth not just a project or a creation or a baby, but yourself. And so to trust that it's already inherent in your intelligence, that your body knows how to do this, and that you just have to surrender to the process and be like, I'm going to witness something miraculous happen, and trust that that is always happening. Sometimes we take it for granted, all the little things. So yeah, coming back to that awareness that like you are a miracle, that everything is moving through you in the highest way, in service to your highest timeline unfolding, and in service to the collective healing, and coming into a deep sense of peace. And this is needed now more than ever, because we're waking up to our roles, and every single person is needed. So thank you for being here. Thank you to all of the priestesses and all of the wise ones and the wizards that have come before us to pave the pathway and to keep their light alive, especially the ones in the Rose lineage that have just been here for so long. Mary Magdalene, Isis, those ones that are walking alongside us. We are not alone. And so yeah, with that, I will ring my sistrum and offer this HEKA transmission with your permission, to support you in coming into alignment and flow and real powerful magnetism so that you can become the center of the storm. Whatever is swirling around you, whatever might arise as a result of you clearing the densities, that it can just fly off of you and that you can really be in your power again, trusting that your medicine is needed and is potent and very much valued to those out there who are ready for it, so that we can all thrive together. So with that, I will offer this transmission and calling in the star mothers, the 7 Palladian star mothers, to be with us here, the Hathors, Heter, Heteru, to support us in activating our wombs and our creation power, to light the central hearth as we step into this new era of sovereignty and truth, opening our hearts to those who are ready to receive and to be illuminated and activated through our unique medicine, our codes, our art, our creations, our businesses, our children, our families, all that is meant to come through us. May it come through with grace and in such a beautiful way. All right, here we go. Hura hetret maat heka rakasa hure ki ra maat hetret isara heka rakasa hura. Har heka raka sahureki ramaat nete reki raka sahureki raka sahureki raka heka rama haturet maat reki raka sahura haturet isa raka rama haturet isa reki raka sa. And they want us to focus in on our heart space and this sense of bliss that wants to be flooded through the body and overflowed into the collective. What that is, the pleasure code that wants to be expressed. It could feel like a rose blooming at your heart, just something beautiful coming through you. Reiki raka ramaha turet isaramaat hetret maat hekaraka sahu reiki. And this is your offering upon the altar of life. Reiki ramaha turet sahuraha turet maat. Reiki raka sahu reiki raka 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 heka ramaha turet isa raka sa. And just taking a few deep breaths here to notice the body. Notice anything that might be coming through for you, any messages, any symbols, any sensations. And sealing this transmission with the power of the Ankh, trusting that this is flowing through all lifetimes, dimensions, and realities in service to the collective, in service to the law of one and the law of love. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Ankh Neteru, Ankh Neteru, Ankh Neteru. Hotep, Hotep, Hotep. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you so much, sister.
Oh my God.
How do you
I
feel?
am having like an ayahuasca right now. Like already before, but right now I'm even deeper. I see stuff in the temple and you're I don't want to go there. Maybe we close by telling our beautiful sisters and brothers that are listening how they can work with you and what your next offerings are, because I know that you are going to Egypt and I would love to go with you. Maybe you just finish up by you
Sure.
sharing how they can get in touch with you, what you're offering, and then see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm Flow Priestess on Instagram. You can always reach out to me there directly. Send me a direct message if you'd like. Also, my website, flowpriestess.com, has my courses and my offerings. I do one-on-one sessions, energy attunements, spirit baby readings, as well as just general tune-ups and extractions. A lot of soul stuff comes through in those circle in those I call them circles, even if it's just two of us. Like we're creating this beautiful akashic field where we can access intel that we can't get any other way. And then also, yeah, I've got this pilgrimage coming up, which is in October, and it's going to be a small group, but we're, yeah, just going to do some powerful work. Those lands are just incredible and very, yeah, just they're so welcoming because I'll be giving everybody specific codes and keys that the Neter are giving me. So when we go into the temple spaces, we'll be able to access things that maybe others won't be able to, and open doorways and pathways and portals that will bring us into more alignment with our creation power. And so, yeah, that's October 14th and 2 weeks long. So, really excited for that. And then I've got my quantum conception course for anyone who's on the fertility journey and the healing the mother wound course too. And I'm creating more. It's like there's more that's overflowing. I also want to support entrepreneurs. And so if you want to just tune into something and feel the vibes, we're also doing monthly flow clubs every 22nd of the month. I also offer free abortion and miscarriage support circles too every month. So it's something that I feel very passionate about supporting people through these rites of passage that are missing and just making everyone feel safe to be their wild, wacky, weird selves because, yeah, it's needed. So thank you so much for having me and for sharing your truth and for creating this beautiful space for everyone to grow and learn.
Oh, thank you, Leah. And the next circle is, I think, really soon, the miscarriage circle, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's on the 25th of January if this comes out before then. But if not, there will be monthly ones. And
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is something I might even offer twice a month because I do feel there's such a need for people to be witnessed in that space. And it is an important part of our rebirthing experience and our spiritual ascension to meet loss and to see death not as an end or something that is final, but also just as a beautiful bridge to what's emerging.
Oh, I think that is another podcast episode that we need to
Yes.
go into maybe deeper about death and
Hmm.
miscarriage and birth and all of that because
Mm.
we have already talked between us, but I think that there's more to unravel. So for now, I am deeply, deeply grateful for your wisdom, for your presence, for your love, for your authenticity, and for coming into the frequency of the talking stick. I'm gonna put your symbol with reverence onto the talking stick, and your frequency will be forever be put and into the talking stick and elevated to heights maybe never seen before. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you very, very soon. Mwah.
Oh, mwah. Thank you, sister.